Welcome to another deep dive. And this time, we're tackling the world of machine learning.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it should be interesting, especially since we'll be diving into this essay. It's called machinelearning.pdf.
Okay.
Simple title, right?
Straight to the point.
Exactly. And, the author is Jörg-Owe,
Right.
and the essay does a really great job of showing how machine learning is more than just, a buzzy term.
Right.
Because it's actually already impacting so many different industries.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people don't quite realize how much machine learning is already kind of woven into their lives.
Yeah, definitely under the surface in a lot of ways.
Exactly. So to kick things off, maybe we can start with the basics.
Yeah.
What exactly is machine learning, and why should we even care?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Mm-hmm.
At its core, machine learning is all about giving computers the ability to learn from data.
Okay.
And then, based on that learning, to make predictions or decisions. Without us having to explicitly program rules for every single possible scenario.
So, instead of giving it step-by-step instructions for everything,
Right.
it can kind of figure things out on its own based on the data it sees.
Exactly. Yeah, so the essay really emphasizes how this ability is fundamentally changing so many different fields.
Oh,
From healthcare, to finance, it's just everywhere.
And it's interesting because I think a lot of people, when they hear machine learning, they think of robots taking over the world, kind of a sci-fi scenario.
Yeah, the Hollywood version.
Right. But it sounds like it's actually a lot more nuanced than that.
Definitely. I mean, it's about, like you said, giving machines the ability to learn and adapt, much like WE do.
I see. So it's not just about crunching numbers. It's actually about learning patterns and making predictions based on those patterns.
Exactly.
I think I'm starting to get it now.
Good.
But the essay talks about all these different types of machine learning, which honestly sounded a little overwhelming at first.
Yeah, there are a few different flavors.
Right. So maybe we could break those down a bit.
Sure, happy to. So you've probably heard of supervised learning.
Okay, yeah, that one rings a bell.
And that's basically where you give the algorithm a bunch of labeled data.
Labeled data. So what, we're putting little sticky notes on everything?
Well, you can think of it like that.
Okay.
Imagine showing a computer tons of pictures. Some are cats, some are dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you tell it which is which. So it learns to recognize the patterns that distinguish a cat from a dog.
Okay.
And then it can classify new pictures on its own.
Oh, I see. So it's learning from examples, kind of like how we teach a dog new tricks with treats.
Precisely. It's all about learning by example in supervised learning.
That makes sense. But what about when we don't have all those perfectly labeled examples? What if we don't know all the answers in advance?
That's where unsupervised learning comes in.
Okay.
And the essay makes a really strong case for how this type of learning is going to be huge EE in areas like cybersecurity.
Oh, wow. Okay. How so?
Because with cybersecurity, you're often trying to detect brand new threats, things you've never seen before, right?
It makes sense.
So there's not always neatly labeled data to train on. You're looking for anomalies, patterns that are OD of the ordinary.
So it's more about finding hidden structures in the data, even if we don't know what we're looking for exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, imagine trying to solve a puzzle.
Okay.
But you don't have the picture on the box to guide you.
Oh, that's a good analogy. So you're just trying to fit the pieces together and see what emerges.
That's the idea behind unsupervised learning.
Fascinating. Now, the essay also mentions this thing called semi-supervised learning.
Right.
Is that like a combo of the two?
Exactly. It's basically a hybrid approach.
Okay.
Where you use a little bit of labeled data.
Okay.
And a lot of unlabeled data to train the algorithm.
I see. And why would you do that? Why not just use all labeled data if you have it?
Well, sometimes labeling data is really time-consuming or expensive,
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the essay points out that's often the case in the real world.
So semi-supervised learning is like a shortcut. You use a little bit of guidance and then let the algorithm figure out the rest.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, there's one more type of machine learning that the essay talks about, and this one always sounds a bit like science fiction to me. Reinforcement learning.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so reinforcement learning is all about learning through trial and error.
Interesting.
It gets rewards for good actions and penalties for bad ones, and it figures out the best strategy over time.
So, it's playing a video game and learning how to level up?
That's a good analogy.
Cool.
The essay actually gives the example of a chess-playing AI.
Okay.
It learns to play by playing millions of games, getting feedback along the way, and eventually becoming a master.
That's incredible. So it's basically figuring out the optimal path to success, just like we do in real life, but it's doing it through this like simulated trial and error process.
Exactly.
Okay, I think we've got a good handle on the basic types of machine learning now.
Good.
But the essay also gets into the nitty-gritty of some of the specific algorithms that power all this learning.
Right, yeah.
Unpack a few of those for us.
Of course. There are tons of algorithms out there.
Okay.
But let's start with two common ones. Linear and logistic regression.
Okay.
Linear regression is used to predict numbers, like, say, predicting house prices.
Based on like square footage, location, things like that.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. What about logistic regression?
That one's all about classification. So instead of predicting a number, it's predicting a category.
Okay, so like, is this email spam or not spam?
Perfect example.
Got it. So predicting numbers versus predicting category.
You got it. Now, the essay also talks about decision trees and random forests.
Okay, those sound a bit more complicated.
They are a bit more sophisticated.
Okay.
But essentially, imagine a tree-like structure where each branch represents a decision point. And based on a series of questions, you follow the branches to arrive at a final decision.
So like a choose-your-own-adventure book, but for data.
Haha, yeah, something like that.
I love it. The essay uses the example of a bank deciding whether to approve a loan application.
Right?
So it might ask things like, what's the applicant's credit score? Do they have a steady income?
Yeah, exactly.
And based on the answers, it follows the branches to decide whether to say yes or no to the loan.
Exactly.
So it's like breaking down a complex decision into a series of simpler steps. That's clever.
Right.
Okay, so what about support vector machines? I remember seeing that term in the essay as well.
Support vector machines are really good at finding the best boundary between two categories.
Okay.
Like, imagine you have a scatter plot with two groups of data points.
Okay.
The SVM finds the line that separates those groups most effectively.
Oh, so like it's finding the optimal dividing line between the two.
Exactly. The essay talks about how they're used in image recognition.
Oh, interesting. So like to distinguish between pictures of cats and dogs.
Yep, exactly.
That's really cool. Now, we can't talk about machine learning algorithms without mentioning neural networks, right?
Yes, the rock stars of the machine learning world.
Right.
They're getting a lot of attention these days, for good reason.
Okay, so remind me, what makes neural networks so special?
They're inspired by the structure of the human brain.
Okay.
With interconnected nodes that process information.
So they're like artificial brains, basically.
That's a simplified way, yes.
Okay, so how does that translate into like actual applications?
Well, they're incredibly powerful at recognizing complex patterns, which makes them ideal for things like natural language processing.
Oh, right. That's what allows computers to understand and generate human language, right?
Exactly. That's why we have things like chatbots and language translation tools that are getting better and better.
It's mind-blowing how far that technology has come.
It really is.
Are there any other algorithms we should be aware of?
Yeah. The essay mentions one more. K-nearest neighbors, or KNN for short.
Okay, and how does that one work?
So KNN is all about classifying data points based on their similarity to neighboring data points.
Okay, so like birds of the feather flock together kind of thing.
Pretty much.
So if a data point is surrounded by other data points that belong to a certain category,
Right.
it's likely to belong to that category as well.
Exactly.
I see. Okay, that's fascinating. So we've covered a lot of ground here with the different types of machine learning and some of the key algorithms.
Yeah, we have.
But the field is constantly evolving, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly dynamic.
What are some of the recent advancements that have really caught your eye?
Well, one area that really stood out to me in the essay is the rise of generative models.
Generative models, what are those?
These are models that can actually create new data.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, think about those AI tools that can write human-like text or compose music.
Yeah, those are pretty mind-blowing.
Right. And a lot of that progress is thanks to advancements in neural networks.
Makes sense.
Especially a type called transformers.
Transformers. Like the robots.
Haha, not quite.
Okay.
They're a specific type of neural network architecture.
I see. And what makes transformers so special?
Well, they're really good at understanding context and relationships between words in a sentence.
So they're not just looking at words in isolation.
No, they're able to see how words relate to each other within a larger context.
That's pretty amazing.
Right. And that's why these AI tools can generate such creative and coherent text.
So it's not just mimicking human language, it's actually understanding it on a deeper level.
Exactly.
Okay, so generative models are one big advancement. What else is happening in the world of machine learning these days?
Well, the essay also mentions low-code, no-code platforms.
Low code and no code. So like, You don't need to be a programmer to use them.
Exactly. That's the whole idea.
Okay, that's interesting. And why is that such a big deal?
Because it's making machine learning accessible to a much wider audience.
I see. So you don't need to have a PhD in computer science to build a machine learning model anymore.
Nope. And the essay argues that this is a game changer for businesses, especially smaller ones, that might not have the resources to hire a whole team of data scientists.
Right. It's like democratizing access to this powerful technology.
Exactly. Imagine small businesses being able to use machine learning to personalize marketing campaigns or optimize their operations.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So it's not just for tech giants anymore. It's a tool that anyone can use.
That's the direction things are moving in.
That's really exciting. The essay also mentions embedded machine learning and TinyML.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us more about those?
Okay, so these are areas where machine learning is literally shrinking in size.
Shrinking in size.
Yeah, TinyML focuses on running machine learning algorithms on tiny devices, like sensors or even wearable tech.
So instead of sending data to the cloud for processing, it's all happening right there on the device itself.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty wild. What kind of impact could that have?
Well, the essay talks about how this could revolutionize the Internet of Things, or IoT.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that, but I'm not sure I totally get it.
So the IoT is all about connecting everyday objects to the Internet.
Okay.
Like think smart refrigerators, smart thermostats, all that stuff.
Right, so the TinyML, those devices could actually analyze data and make decisions on their own.
Exactly. So instead of just collecting data and sending it to the cloud,
right,
they can process it right there and take action.
Oh, that's really cool.
Right.
So, like, your smart refrigerator could not only order groceries,
right,
but also, like, predict when your milk is about to expire and warn you.
Exactly. Or sensors in a factory could detect potential equipment failures before they even happen.
Wow, those are some really amazing applications. Okay, so we've got generative models, low-code, no-code platforms, and TinyML. What other advancements are shaping the future of machine learning?
Well, the essay also talks about automated machine learning, or AutoML.
AutoML, what is that?
It's basically about automating the process of building and deploying machine learning models.
So, like, having an AI assistant for your AI development.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's pretty meta.
Right. And it can be super helpful for businesses that are new to machine learning,
Right, because it can be a really complex process.
Exactly. AutoML can help streamline and simplify things.
So it's like taking some of the guesswork out of machine learning.
Yeah, it's
okay, so it makes it more accessible and less intimidating for beginners.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've got all this automation happening, and it seems like unsupervised learning would be even more important in this kind of environment, right?
Absolutely.
Because you have all this data coming in from all these different sources.
Right.
And you need a way to make sense of it without having to label everything manually.
Exactly. Unsupervised learning is all about finding those hidden patterns and insights that we might not even know to look for.
So it's like having an AI detective that can sift through mountains of information and uncover hidden clues.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, that's super cool. But even with all these advancements, there must be some challenges that come with implementing machine learning in the real world,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like, what are some of the hurdles that organizations face when they're trying to actually put this technology into practice?
Well, one of the biggest challenges highlighted in the essay is data access and quality.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, machine learning algorithms are only as good as the data they're trained on.
Right, garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if the data is biased or incomplete, the results can be skewed or even discriminatory.
That's a really important point. So it's not just about having a lot of data, it's about having the right kind of data.
Exactly.
What about actually putting these models into practice? Are there any challenges there?
Yeah, deploying machine learning models in the real world can be tricky. It's one thing to build a model that works in a controlled lab setting.
Right.
But it's another thing entirely to make sure it performs well in the messy reality of the real world.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what are some of the things that can go wrong?
Well, the models need to be robust, reliable, and able to adapt to different environments.
So it's not just about building a cool model.
Yeah.
It's about making sure it actually works in practice.
Exactly. And the essay emphasizes the importance of testing and monitoring these models closely once they're deployed to make sure they're actually delivering value and not causing unintended consequences.
That's a really important point. Are there any other challenges we should be aware of?
Another key challenge is making sure that machine learning projects are actually aligned with organizational goals.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype of a new technology.
Right.
But you need to make sure it's actually solving a real business problem.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's just a waste of time and resources.
Precisely. The essay really stresses the importance of having a clear business case
Okay.
and a well-defined problem statement before you even start building a model.
So it's all about making sure that machine learning is actually solving real problems.
Yes.
And delivering tangible value to the organization.
Exactly. Now, I imagine cost and resource constraints are also a big factor, especially for smaller organizations.
Right. I mean, this stuff can't be cheap, right?
Machine learning projects can be quite expensive and resource intensive.
Yeah.
The essay points out that many projects actually fail to deliver on their promises.
Really?
Yeah, which can lead to wasted resources and a lot of disillusionment.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Eh.
So it's important to have realistic expectations
Definitely.
and to really think through the potential costs and benefits before diving in headfirst.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot to consider before jumping into the world of machine learning.
There is.
But I'm curious about the role of regulations in all of this. Like, how are those evolving to keep up with this rapidly advancing field?
That's a really important question.
Mhm.
And the essay delves into how regulatory frameworks are trying to adapt to the unique challenges posed by machine learning.
Okay, what are some of those challenges?
Well, one key challenge is finding the right balance between flexibility and enforcement.
Okay, I can see how that would be tricky.
Right. On the one hand, you want regulations to be adaptable enough to keep pace with innovation. But on the other hand, you need to have some teeth to ensure responsible use of this technology.
So it's a delicate balancing act.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of speed.
Oh, right, because machine learning is evolving so rapidly.
Exactly.
It's like, how do you create regulations that can keep up with that pace of change?
Right. The essay highlights the need for regulatory processes that are agile and responsive, able to adapt quickly as new technologies emerge.
So the traditional slow-moving approach to regulation might not be the best fit for this field.
Exactly.
Makes sense. What about international collaboration?
That's another key aspect.
Yeah, because machine learning is a global phenomenon.
Right, exactly. So international harmonization is crucial, to avoid a fragmented landscape.
Right.
And to promote collaboration.
Okay.
The essay talks about the need for global dialogue and cooperation.
Okay.
To develop ethical guidelines and standards that can be adopted worldwide.
So it's not just about individual countries doing their own thing. It's about working together to create a unified approach to regulating machine learning.
Exactly. We need a global perspective on this.
That makes a lot of sense. So what are some of the specific approaches that are being explored for regulating machine learning?
Well, one common approach is what's called a risk-based framework.
Okay. And what does that mean?
It means that regulations are tailored to the specific risks associated with different applications of machine learning. So like higher stakes, higher scrutiny.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for example, AI systems being used in healthcare would likely face stricter regulations than those used for something like entertainment.
Right, because the potential consequences of a mistake are much higher in healthcare.
Precisely.
Okay, so that makes sense. What other approaches are being considered?
Another approach is the use of regulatory sandboxes.
Regulatory sandboxes, what are those?
They're basically controlled environments
Okay.
where companies can test and develop AI innovations while still adhering to certain guidelines.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like a safe space for experimentation,
I like that.
where you can try things out without the risk of causing harm in the real world.
That's really smart. It allows for innovation while still ensuring that there are some safeguards in place.
Exactly.
Okay, what about accountability and transparency? How are those being addressed in this whole regulatory landscape?
Those are absolutely crucial considerations. Yeah, I can imagine. Because if these AI systems are making decisions that impact our lives, we need to be able to understand how those decisions are being made. Right?
Exactly.
It can't just be a black box.
Right. The essay emphasizes the need for mechanisms to ensure that AI systems are auditable and explainable. So that means being able to trace decisions back to their source and to understand how the algorithms are arriving at their conclusions.
So, we need to be able to peek inside and see how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Exactly.
And that seems especially important in areas like healthcare or finance, where the decisions these systems make can have a huge impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. And of course, data governance and privacy are also major concerns.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as these AI systems become more sophisticated,
Right.
they're collecting and analyzing more and more data about us.
Exactly.
So we need to make sure that data is being handled responsibly.
The essay highlights the need for clear guidelines on how AI systems can collect, store, and use personal data. And we need to make sure that those guidelines are actually enforced.
So it's not just about having good intentions. It's about having systems in place to make sure those intentions are actually being followed.
Exactly.
Okay, well, it's clear that machine learning is already having a huge impact on our world,
Yes.
and it's only going to get bigger and more complex in the future.
Absolutely.
What are some of the key takeaways from the essay about the future of machine learning?
Well, the essay paints a pretty optimistic picture,
Okay.
but it also acknowledges the challenges.
Right.
One thing that really stood out to me was the idea of enhanced natural language interfaces.
Oh, yeah, we touched on that earlier. So, like, being able to talk to our computers like we talk to each other,
Exactly.
that would be a game changer.
It really would. Imagine being able to have a nuanced conversation with your smartphone or your car or even your smart home.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Right.
What other possibilities are being explored?
Well, another area that's getting a lot of attention is decision intelligence.
Decision intelligence. Remind me what that is again.
It's basically about AI systems moving beyond just analyzing data
Okay.
to actually making complex decisions autonomously.
So AI taking over tasks that typically require human judgment?
Exactly.
Wow, that's both exciting and a little bit scary.
I know, right? It's
Yeah.
definitely a powerful concept with
Yeah.
the potential to revolutionize so many different industries.
But we need to be careful, right? I mean, we don't want to create AI systems that make decisions that are harmful or unethical.
Absolutely.
So how do we make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, ethical considerations are at the forefront of the conversation around AI these days.
Okay, good.
The essay stresses the need for frameworks that prioritize fairness, transparency, and accountability in AI systems.
So it's not just about building smart machines. It's about building machines that align with human values.
Exactly. We need to make sure that these powerful technologies are used to benefit humanity as a whole,
Right.
and that they don't perpetuate existing biases or inequalities.
That's a really important point. And I imagine that as AI becomes more sophisticated,
Right.
we're going to have to think a lot about its impact on the workforce.
Absolutely.
Like what kinds of jobs will be automated and what new opportunities will be created.
The essay acknowledges the potential for AI to displace some jobs, but it also emphasizes the potential for AI to create new opportunities
Okay.
and to augment human capabilities.
So it's not necessarily about AI taking over. It's about AI and humans working together.
Exactly. It's about finding that synergy.
I like that.
And of course, data privacy and security will continue to be paramount concerns.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something we need to be thinking about constantly as AI becomes more integrated into our lives.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive into machine learning,
Okay.
what's the one message you hope listeners will take away from our conversation so far?
I think the most important takeaway is that machine learning is an incredibly powerful tool with the potential to transform our world in profound ways, both positive and negative.
Right.
So it's up to us to ensure that we use this technology responsibly and ethically,
Well said.
and that we guide its development and deployment toward a future that benefits all of humanity.
I love that. That's a great note to end on.
Thanks.
We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the world of machine learning. Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've talked about the different types of machine learning and some of the key algorithms,
Right.
but the field is constantly evolving, right?
Right. Absolutely. It's a fast-moving target.
Yeah. So what are some of the advancements that are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with machine learning?
One area that's really interesting is the rise of generative models,
Okay.
especially in natural language processing. Think about AI tools that can write human-like text, like those chatbots,
Yeah.
or even AI that can compose music.
It's crazy how realistic that stuff is getting.
It really is.
Like, is that all thanks to advancements in neural networks?
Neural networks definitely play a huge role. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially a type called transformers.
Transformers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're incredibly good at understanding context and nuance, which is why those AI tools can generate such creative text.
I see. So they're not just like spitting out random words. They're actually understanding the meaning and the relationships between words.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
The essay even suggests that these models could eventually lead to breakthroughs in areas like personalized education
Oh, wow.
and even scientific research.
So AI is not just mimicking human creativity, it's potentially like pushing it even further.
Potentially, yeah, it's exciting.
That is exciting. The essay also mentions these low-code, no-code platforms.
Right.
How are those changing the landscape of machine learning?
These platforms are basically making it possible for people without coding skills to build and deploy their own machine learning models.
So you don't need to be like a coding whiz to use them.
Nope, not at all.
That's amazing.
It's a game changer for businesses that might not have the resources for a full-fledged data science team.
I see.
Imagine small businesses being able to leverage the power of AI to personalize marketing campaigns or to optimize their operations.
That's really cool. So we're moving towards an era where AI isn't just for, like, the big tech companies.
Right.
It's a tool that anyone can use.
Absolutely.
That's a really empowering thought. Speaking of accessibility, the essay also touched on embedded machine learning and TinyML.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Sure. So these are areas where machine learning is literally getting smaller and more powerful.
Smaller. How so?
Well, TinyML focuses on running machine learning algorithms on tiny, low-power devices.
Oh, wow.
Like sensors or even wearable tech.
So instead of sending data to the cloud for processing, these devices can analyze it right there on the spot.
Exactly.
What kind of impact could that have on, like, our everyday lives?
The essay points to the potential for revolutionizing the Internet of Things, the IoT. Okay.
Imagine a world where your smart refrigerator can not only order groceries, but also predict when food is about to expire.
Oh, that would be awesome. No more wasted food.
Right. Or imagine sensors in a factory that can detect potential equipment failures before they even happen.
Wow, that could save companies a ton of money and prevent downtime.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It really is. The essay also mentions automated machine learning, or AutoML.
Right.
How does that fit into this whole rapidly evolving landscape?
So AutoML is basically about automating the process of building and deploying machine learning models.
So like streamlining the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like having an AI assistant for your AI development.
That's pretty meta.
Right. It can be incredibly helpful for businesses that are just starting out with machine learning.
Okay.
And maybe don't have the expertise to navigate all the complexity.
It was kind of like taking some of the guesswork out of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
Makes it more accessible. Okay, so with all this automation happening, what role does unsupervised learning play in all of this?
Unsupervised learning becomes even more crucial as we gather more and more data.
Okay.
It's really powerful at finding those hidden patterns and insights that we might not even know to look for.
I see.
The essay suggests it has huge potential in fields like drug discovery and financial modeling.
Oh, wow.
Where you're dealing with vast amounts of complex data.
So it's like having an AI detective that can sift through mountains of information and uncover hidden clues.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
That's fascinating. But even with all these incredible advancements, I imagine there are still some challenges that come with implementing machine learning in the real world.
Oh, absolutely. There are always challenges.
Yeah, like what are some of the hurdles that organizations face?
One of the biggest challenges is data access and quality.
Okay, so even though we have more data than ever before, it's not always the right kind of data.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Or it might be biased or incomplete.
And remember, machine learning algorithms are only as good as the data they're trained on.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. So if the data is flawed, the results will be flawed too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about the actual process of putting these models into practice?
Yeah, deploying machine learning models in real-world settings can be quite complex.
Okay, so it's not just about building a model that works in a lab. It's about making sure it can handle the complexities of the real world.
Exactly. You need to ensure that the models are robust, reliable, and perform well in different environments.
So it's not just a one-and-done kind of thing.
No, not at all.
There's ongoing monitoring and maintenance involved.
Absolutely. The essay emphasizes the importance of testing and monitoring models closely to make sure they're actually delivering a value and not causing unintended consequences.
Right, because you don't want to unleash an AI model into the world and then have it go rogue.
You definitely don't. Another challenge is aligning machine learning projects with organizational goals.
Oh, right. So you need to make sure that the models you're building are actually solving real business problems.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and start building models without a clear understanding of how they'll actually be used.
Right. So you need to have a clear business case and a well-defined problem statement before you even start.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're just wasting time and resources.
Exactly. And speaking of resources, cost is a big factor too.
Yeah, especially for smaller organizations that might not have a lot of spare cash lying around.
Machine learning projects can be quite expensive. Yeah.
And if those projects fail to deliver on their promises,
Right.
that could be a huge setback.
It can be. Yeah. The essay points out that many machine learning projects actually fail.
Really?
It's more common than you might think.
Wow. So it's not just a matter of throwing money at the problem. You need to have a solid plan and realistic expectations.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot to consider before diving headfirst into the world of machine learning.
There is, yeah.
It's not just about the technology itself. It's about the people, the processes, the resources.
All of it.
Okay, well, this has been really enlightening so far, but I want to shift gears a bit and talk about regulations.
Sure.
Because as machine learning becomes more powerful and more pervasive, it's clear that we need some guardrails in place.
Absolutely. The essay discusses how regulatory frameworks are evolving to address the unique challenges posed by machine learning.
Okay. And what are some of those challenges from a regulatory perspective?
Well, one key challenge is finding the right balance between flexibility and enforcement.
I could see how that would be tricky.
On the one hand, you want regulations to be adaptable enough to keep pace with innovation, which is happening so rapidly in this field.
Right.
But on the other hand, you need to have some teeth to ensure responsible use of this technology.
So it's a delicate balancing act.
It really is.
And then there's the issue of speed, right?
Yeah, that's another big challenge.
Because machine learning is evolving so quickly, how do you create regulations that can keep up with that pace of change?
Right. The traditional slow-moving approach to regulation might not be the best fit for this field.
Okay, so what are some of the solutions being proposed?
Well, the essay highlights the need for regulatory processes that are agile and responsive,
I see.
able to adapt quickly as new technologies emerge.
So more like iterative and flexible regulations rather than static rules.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And then there's the issue of international collaboration, you know?
Oh, right, because machine learning is a global phenomenon.
Exactly. It's not confined to any one country.
So we need to have some kind of global framework for regulating it.
That's the idea. Yeah, the essay talks about the need for global dialogue and cooperation to develop ethical guidelines and standards.
That can be adopted worldwide.
Right. We need a unified approach rather than a patchwork of different regulations in different countries.
Okay, so are there any specific approaches that are being explored for regulating machine learning?
There are a few. Yeah. One common approach is what's called a risk-based framework.
Risk-based framework, what does that mean?
So basically, it means that regulations are tailored to the specific risks associated with different applications of machine learning.
Oh, okay, so like higher stakes, higher scrutiny.
Exactly. So, for example, AI systems used in healthcare
Okay.
would likely face stricter regulations than those used for, say, entertainment.
Right, because the potential consequences of a mistake are much higher in healthcare.
Exactly.
Like that makes sense. What other approaches are being considered?
Another approach is the use of regulatory sandboxes.
Regulatory sandboxes, what are those?
They're basically controlled environments
Okay.
where companies can test and develop AI innovations while still adhering to certain guidelines.
Oh, interesting. So it's like a safe space for experimentation.
Right, where you can try things out without the risk of causing harm in the real world.
That's really smart. So it allows for innovation, but it also ensures that there are some safeguards in place.
Exactly. It's a way to balance those competing needs.
Okay, that makes sense. What about accountability and transparency? How are those being addressed in this whole regulatory landscape?
Those are crucial considerations, yeah.
Because if these AI systems are making decisions that impact our lives,
Right.
we need to be able to understand how those decisions are being made.
Exactly.
It can't just be a black box where we have no idea what's going on inside.
The essay really emphasizes the need for mechanisms to ensure that AI systems are auditable and explainable.
Okay, so that means being able to trace decisions back to their source.
Yeah.
And to understand how the algorithms are arriving at their conclusions.
Exactly. So we need to be able to peek inside and see how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Right. No more black boxes.
Exactly.
And that seems especially important in areas like healthcare or finance, where the decisions these systems make can have a huge impact on people's lives.
Absolutely. And of course, data governance and privacy are major concerns as well.
Yeah, definitely. As these AI systems become more sophisticated, they're collecting and analyzing more and more data about us.
Exactly. So we need to make sure that data is being handled responsibly and ethically.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the ethical considerations, the societal implications, the regulatory framework.
It's all interconnected. Yeah, it's a complex landscape.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting.
Oh, absolutely. The possibilities are endless.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a new era where AI is going to transform so many aspects of our lives.
It really does feel that way.
Well, I'm eager to see what the future holds, but for now, let's take a break and we'll come back to wrap up our deep dive into the world of machine learning.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've talked about all these advancements in machine learning, and it seems like the future is full of both like incredible possibilities, but also some pretty big questions, you know?
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about.
The essay touches on this idea of enhanced natural language interfaces.
Right.
And I'm curious, like, what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, imagine a world where you can interact with technology using natural conversational language, just like you would with another person.
So instead of typing commands or navigating through like complicated menus,
Right.
you could just tell your devices what you want them to do.
Exactly.
So we're talking about like talking to our computers like they're our friends.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
That would certainly change the way we interact with technology.
That would be a huge shift.
What kind of impact do you think that could have on like our everyday lives?
The possibilities are endless, really.
Okay.
Think about being able to have a nuanced conversation with your smart home system.
Okay.
You know, asking it to adjust the lighting, play music, maybe even order groceries based on your preferences.
I think that'd be amazing.
Right. Or imagine giving complex instructions to your self-driving car using just your voice, specifying the route, the desired arrival time, you know, even the types of music you want to listen to along the way.
That would be so cool. It'd make things so much easier and more intuitive.
Exactly. It's all about making technology more human-centered.
I love that idea. The essay also mentions the thing called decision intelligence.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on what that entails?
Sure. So decision intelligence takes AI beyond just analyzing data to actually making complex decisions autonomously.
So it's like AI is not just giving us insights, it's actually taking action.
Exactly.
Wow, that's both exciting and like a little bit unsettling. You know?
I understand that feeling. It's like we're giving up some control.
In a way, yes. But it's also about delegating tasks that AI might be better suited for.
Okay, so what are some examples of those kinds of tasks?
Well, think about things like managing our schedules, booking travel, maybe even making investment decisions.
So it's like having a super intelligent personal assistant.
Kind of, yeah, but one that can actually make decisions on our behalf.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing.
It is, but we need to be careful, right? I mean, we don't want to create AI systems that make decisions that are harmful or unethical.
Right, that's a huge concern. It is, so we need to think carefully about how we design these systems.
Okay, so what are some of the things we can do to ensure that AI is used ethically?
Well, transparency is key. We need to be able to understand how these systems are making decisions.
Right, no more black boxes.
Exactly. We also need to make sure that these systems are aligned with human values.
Okay, so like fairness, justice, things like that.
Exactly. We don't want to create AI that perpetuates existing biases or inequalities.
That's a really important point.
It is, and it's something that researchers and developers are very much aware of.
Good to hear.
It's an ongoing conversation, and it's one that we all need to be a part of.
I agree. It's not just a technology issue, it's a societal issue.
Exactly. We need to think about the ethical and societal implications of AI, not just the technical aspects.
Well said. Well, this has been an absolutely fascinating deep dive into the world of machine learning.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I learned so much, and I'm sure our listeners did too. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to give a huge thank you to Jörg-Owe.
Yeah, great essay.
For providing such insightful source material for this deep dive.
It really was a good one.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of intelligent machines.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope you found it thought-provoking and inspiring. You know, because the future of machine learning is in our hands, and it's up to all of us to shape it in a way that benefits humanity.
Well said.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.